What's going on, guys? Little Wash here, and today we got another reaction video, and this one is with a twist. We're going to be reacting to the game theory FNaF Ultimate Timeline. But we got another twist. We got a special guest with us today. Introduce.
Hello.
Hello. we have the Biohazard King here with us today. We're going to be doing like a double reaction. It's gonna be cool. If you guys do enjoy, why not leave a like and subscribe to the channels.
You better subscribe.
Okay, sorry. And let's get into the reaction.
Today we end the torment. 19 books, 11 games, 8 whole years.
8 years, holy crap.
The ultimate FNaF
it's crazy.
Is finally complete. The pieces are in place for us. Now all we have to do is
I love the editing style of this.
Jealousy, and loss back together.
Game
Hello,
theory.
Internet. Welcome to Game
Hello,
Theory.
Internet.
A show that feels like a kid revealing the class project that he's been working on all year. Except here, it's the class project that I've been working on for the past decade of my life.
Damn, that's such a long time.
Man, kind of nervous. I haven't attempted a timeline video on this franchise since 2018.
Holy moly.
Mike was the crying child, Afton coming back was actually a surprise, and Fazgoo wasn't a phrase I ever thought I'd have to utter. But since the last time I did something like this, we've had 3 more massive games, a death and revival of the FNaF movie, and more robot kids than you can shake a staff bot at. It is exhausting trying to keep track of this whole franchise, which honestly is why I'm here today. The lore! At this point is complicated. It is full of speculation and theory, so to hopefully make it a little easier for everyone and to give us all a baseline to talk about this franchise moving forward into the future, it's time to reveal my current working FNaF timeline. But just before I do, I just want to explain a couple of things. First, this timeline is massive. Seriously,
it's very, very big.
It's too big. Any video project we have ever done.
There's so much lore to this.
But when you look at the totality of this franchise, the story of FNaF really boils down to the story of one man, William Afton. His successes, his
Purple guy.
His rise becoming co-owner of one of the most successful restaurant franchises in the world, and his eventual fall to the monsters he helped to create, only to be reborn in a new digital form later. That's why I decided to split this timeline into 3 main chunks.
Okay, so this is the first
how
one.
the business started and how it came into being, the Afton era, William's decades-long murder spree, and post-Purple Guy. Basically modern FNaF. Everything that happens after the pizzeria
modern FNaF stinky.
There are lots of new big revelations in this
Jimmy
thing that
Neutron.
seemingly come out of nowhere, as well as just points I want to talk about further. I decided to dedicate 1 episode to each chunk. I originally wanted it to be one seamless, continuous video, but it just felt incomplete without some sort of explanation at the end of each one. Once this whole thing's done, I promise I'm going to merge all the narrative.
Oh, that was bright.
Damn, that was bright. It was bright.
Flashbang.
This just felt like the best, most satisfying, most complete way to do this. That being said, this is still about the story, the franchise. So in order to make sure that you guys know that I'm not just pulling answers out of thin air, not only am I discussing some of the more controversial bits at the end of each chunk, we're also putting in a handy little graphic.
Gregory's a robot.
Under the screen, which will show thumbnails, video titles, books, and any other citations that we
which is not true.
Video. So if you wish to understand that specific statement,
there's so many theories on that.
Matt gave birth to Springtrap. Hate it.
So sit back, grab some popcorn or your pitchforks if you're the type to get upset when I say something controversial, and make sure that you
Is that a stab at
Twitter?
Probably.
Fully dissect.
You'll all know how theory gang next to
of a loving, obsessive father who slowly
scream at people for doing theories.
Along the way, discovered the secret to eternal life.
Even John got some hate recently for his theories.
Yeah, so
I was like, really?
Not in the 1980s or even in the 1970s, but all the way back in the 1930s. It was
way
the
back.
throes of the
In the
Great
30s?
Depression, and people were in desperate need of cheap entertainment, especially in Utah, one of the state's
Utah.
hardest, 4th highest unemployment in the nation and full of transients. People looking for work in Salt Lake, finding none, and ultimately moving on to find their fortunes out in California. People were tired and they were hungry, but as they traveled, there was one thing that could lift their spirits: a simple roadside attraction called Fredbear's Singin' Show. The ads were plastered all over town, featuring an animated bear drawn in the popular pie-eyed cartoon style for characters at the time. He resembled cartoons like Mickey Mouse, Felix the Cat, Betty Boop. It immediately said that this, Fredbear's, was a place where you could bring the family. And the price, honestly, couldn't be beat. For 50 cents, you could get food and entertainment as you walked the local trained real-life dancing bear perform on stage. Normally, you only get to see dancing bears at large traveling
I've seen
like Barnum and Bailey,
someone on Twitter get mad about the Dancing Bear show
was a smaller show.
They're like,
Oh, really?
you can't believe that there would be a dancing bear show. I was like, I've actually been to one.
Watching that bear do tricks on stage
Yeah.
brought a glimmer of joy at a time when so much was wrong.
It used to be
The simple show
one of the
would go on for
circuses,
years,
like the
bringing
circus would come by,
happiness to hundreds of travelers
or like a fair or whatever. They would have a dancing bear, like ride a unicycle and sing, you know.
Damn.
One little boy.
They had 2 bears.
Billy. That was his nickname at least, but his parents liked to call him William Afton. The bear could dance. It could sing. For decades,
She
William
can
dreamed of
dance, she can
recreating that moment
sing.
of
I don't know if I
William's
like the
youth in real life,
1930
but
thing.
How? William was smart, without a doubt, and he had a keen mind for
Because
business, but
if William was a
mostly,
kid at
how do you make this
1930,
singing dancing bear
that
come
makes
to
him.
life?
Yeah,
The
he would
best
be
could do was using
very
rudimentary
old.
costumes.
Even if he was
William
born in
inspired by the work of
1930.
Walt Disney, who throughout the 50s and 60s was pioneering the use of mascot suits throughout his theme park. The big innovation.
I think that time
suits
gap's
with
a little weird.
5
I don't
fingers.
like.
This allowed the performers wearing the suits to use their natural arms and hands to interact with the guests, as opposed to the older models where the arms would just hang limply by their sides. Finally, with a simple mascot suit, he would be able to realize his childhood dream. He would be able to bring Fredbear to life to appeal to the kids and for copyright reasons.
golden.
He changed Fredbear from a realistic brown animal to a cartoonish yellow bear with a purple hat.
Okay,
and bow
yellow
tie.
bear.
But feeling like one character wasn't enough, he added another friend, a yellow rabbit
Swing
with a purple
Bunny.
vest and matching tie named Bonnie the Bunny. While Fredbear was certainly his first love, Bonnie was extra special because that was his. It was an original character that he had created
Okay.
from
Mine.
scratch. And I do mean scratch. William's hand-sewn costumes were rough with seams and stitches visibly showing.
Yeah.
But it was the best that he could do. And you know what? It was just enough.
Glitch Chef's
Bonnie
design's
and
so
Fredbear
cool.
would perform on
Yeah.
stage to small but enthusiastic crowds. Finally, he was able to deliver fantasy and fun to all the kids, delighting
Hey.
and inspiring them in the exact way that he had been delighted and inspired
Fantasy and
20
fun
years
comes to
ago.
life.
And things could have ended there. That could have been the end to his story. It could have been perfect had it not been for one thing. Other
Here we
people
go.
saw the success of his
We're-
idea
we're
back.
and they wanted in. Enter Chica's Party World, a rival restaurant starring performing animal characters.
Chica's
His
Party
idea,
World.
except they did it better. William may have been the first, but obviously he wasn't the best. It hurt the prideful William Afton to admit it, but this restaurant was able to do the thing that he always wanted to do: make the animals actually come to life. All of the performers in this
Kids
restaurant
would love
were
that.
robots, simple metal skeletons that were powered by battery packs, but all of them able to freely
True.
turn and talk and dance on their own. No human required. It was like magic. Magic.
Magic!
That came from the mind of a brilliant creator named Henry Emily. This Henry.
Hey, there's
in some small
Henry.
way, had been able to harness the power
Ned Bear.
of life itself. Afton admired it. He was jealous, to be sure, but he also looked upon this man with awe. Off to one side of Chica's Party World was a small cabaret stage featuring an elephant magician. On the other, a hippo known to ramble on and on.
Yeah,
That one was
that's
more of a
Mr.
joke for
Hippo
parents.
for
It
you.
was the main stage that was for the kids. A rocking band of characters featuring a yellow chicken thing with a southern drawl named Chica, backed by
Yeah.
a band of other country-themed characters, including a pig with a banjo, an upbeat frog from the local swimming hole, and a brown bear with a heavy southern accent. Wait, a bear? But
Don't you
bears were
hate
his
getting
animals.
obscure
Why not a
secondary
cow or a
character?
horse? Something to fit the country theme a bit better. Why did it have to be a bear? And adding insult to injury, they had the nerve to call this thing
Ned Bear.
a
Oh,
direct copy of his own Fredbear.
Whoops, that's gonna leave a mark.
No, that was not okay. Afton's jealous admiration
And that was
turned
actually
to
mentioned
hardened
in the
bitterness, some
FNaF
bitterness that would
encyclopedia,
only
too.
grow over the next couple of years
Ah,
as families
I haven't seen
continued to
that.
choose
Yeah.
Chica's Party World over Fredbear's. William just couldn't compete with the
It's on the,
appeal of
on
robots.
the Ned Bear
Eventually,
page.
His restaurant would go bankrupt, only to get bailed out by.
Says, was
of
it
course,
changed for
Henry
copyright
Emily.
issues?
Another insult, another humiliation that William wouldn't soon forget.
That's fair.
1979. Despite being bitter, Afton couldn't deny
So
that
even
what
if he
came
was
next
born
was a
in
period of
30, he would
massive
be,
success and expansion.
you know,
With the two
49
franchises
here.
now merged into one, it was the
Yeah,
best of
you'd at
both
least
worlds.
be-
Afton's
That's why I don't like-
ideas
Late 40s,
and
early
his
50s,
robotic
maybe.
expertise. The two men decided to
Yeah.
launch under a new name, Fredbear's Family Diner, a pizza chain.
So he's
that would
ancient
eventually come to feature a
when
mix
he's
of human
dead.
and performing suits
Well, I
as well
mean-
as
He's
on-stage
Springtrap.
animatronics. They decided to stick with Fredbear as the headliner, considering the yellow bear was easily identifiable as a brand and because he was the original performing
The
animal
OG.
mascot. Afton appreciated that. This new restaurant would also see a mix of characters as the two franchises merged into one, with Pig Patch and Happy Frog performing right alongside Fredbear and Bonnie. And as part of this one big Fredbear family, they even got themselves official merch that were released, ranging from masks
Oh,
to magnets.
okay.
The crappy Mr. Hippo fridge magnet?
That said, not all the characters were winners. The reception to some characters was just mediocre. So they faded away into the dumpster, storage units, and retro budget tech stores of lost nostalgia, waiting for their chance to step back into the
Glam
light.
rock hippo.
Winner went out of commission. Others, though, would fare much better, like a new Pirate Fox, as well as a blue guitar-playing variant of the yellow Bonnie Bunny. Ultimately, the franchise would get so big, it would spawn its own cartoon show, Fredbear and Friends.
Is that the bite of 87?
In the end, Fredbear and Bonnie's popularity would be so strong that they would be able to support the Fredbear's Family Diner franchise all on their own, while also
dang.
spinning off a new sister location dedicated to their friends. In 1983, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza launched, giving a dedicated home to all this new supporting cast of characters. Chica the Chicken, Bonnie the Blue Bunny, Foxy the Pirate, and of course the headliner, a brown Freddy Fazbear. Business was
the
good.
original
Afton was
four.
happy, mostly.
Yeah.
Sort
It
of.
did bother him that the one original character that he created, the one that he himself played, Golden Bonnie, got passed over for inclusion in that cartoon show. The only character in the roster of regulars to get ignored for the show, but other than that, things were going smoothly. He had himself a
Fair.
wife, 2 sons, a daughter. He had a
Purple
thriving business,
girl.
and best of all, he was able to learn the craft of robotics from the man that
Purple
he both
woman.
loved and hated, Henry. Together, they were constantly pushing the limits of what these characters could do. Because it was quick and easy, new characters introduced into the roster would be given a simple hand-sewn suit with 5 fingers that any performer could wear. Eventually, Henry would design one of his signature animatronics for that character, utilizing a divided
Spring-lock
mouth with
suits.
either a hinged or sliding jaw design. This
Alright.
was the first generation of animatronics. But why stop there? Afton had big ideas. What if the animatronics weren't just locked to the stage, but could freely roam the restaurant and interact with the kids? What if his
Could you
mascot
actually
suits
imagine
could
that?
become
Yeah.
animatronics? What if you could use more than just
It'd be so
rigid metallic
weird.
skeletons? Why not experiment with tubes and wires that would give the animatronics fluidity and flexibility while still providing structure? The possibilities for this technology were endless. Afton fell in love with robotics. He had started with a dream of bringing one simple singing bear to life, but with robots, he had stumbled across the tools that gave him the ability to control life itself. And thanks to Henry, he was
Dang.
practically speedrunning his way to an engineering degree. And while William wouldn't admit it out loud, one other thing that kept pushing him forward was the desire to beat his former rival, to prove himself smarter and more capable, to
stupid.
surpass the man who everyone else considered to be a visionary genius. But pride
Yeah.
cometh before the fall, and tragedy was about
Tragedy?
to strike. Okay, so that brings us to the
Yeah.
end of part 1 of the story. That said, at the end of each of these chunks, I want to break
Alright,
down
so
some
let's
of the
see
logical leaps
why
that
he
I
made all these
since
logical
the more
leaps.
narrative format doesn't give me much of a chance to justify
Yeah.
a lot of the big decisions. And admittedly, there are some large leaps in here. Let's just start off with Fredbear's Singing Show, shall we? We know, based on the retro poster that was hidden in Security Breach, that at least
Retro
at one
posters are
point,
cool.
Fredbear was an actual
Like 'em.
bear. And like I called out in that narrative segment, dancing bear shows were a real form
Yes.
of entertainment. The only problem is that timing-wise, none of our main characters would be the people in charge of that business in the 30s and a
No.
series of pizza restaurants in the 80s without them just being extremely old. Best case scenario,
Yes.
if Afton's running the singing
Even if you
show
said
when
the-
he's 18,
the
that still puts him
50s,
at nearly 70 when
right?
the first pizzeria opens. and
'Cause in the
murder
70s
spree
would be the-
begins.
he
It
would
just
be in his
doesn't make
20s,
a lot of
yeah.
logical sense because he doesn't become immortal
Or, like,
until his first
mid-40s.
death in Springtrap. That's why I suspect that Fredbear's Singing Show was
yeah.
either a family business that Afton then carried on to a new generation, or something that he saw as a
Could be.
kid and just wanted to recreate when he grew up. The Fredbear Singing Show thing also starts laying the groundwork for some of the core elements of the story. That Freddy's was a place of fantasy and fun, and that Afton,
That's cool.
despite eventually falling to become the heartless serial killer and mad scientist that we know him as, began as someone with good intentions and a love of entertaining kids.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
wanted to bring things to life from the very beginning.
My
A theme that
fancy and
recurs a
fun
lot for
come
him
to
throughout the
life.
rest of the franchise. Next up, let's
It's not
talk
gonna
about
go
the
good.
mascot costumes. One thing that I keep going back to is the design of Glitch Trap. It's a handcrafted suit.
Yeah.
You can see the seams.
It's a
and
cool
everything.
design.
It even has 5 fingers for the performer's hands. It is very much not a Springtrap
Right.
suit. This is something much more rudimentary. It came at a time before animatronics were a part of the story. That's why I suspect that it was actually the first.
Fun fact,
predating
Glitch Trap's real name is
literally everything.
Malware.
It's also
That was its
Malhair.
original
very
name, yeah.
personal to Afton. He put his digital
Yeah.
consciousness in that form. It's his personal avatar. It's the way that he sees himself. There's also a whole separate discussion to be had here about the habits and rituals of serial killers. So the fact that he's choosing to lure kids and kill them in this particular suit actually says a lot about his emotional attachment to it. So while Fredbear seems to have started as someone else's creation, Golden Bonnie was uniquely Williams, giving him a personal connection. And that's not all. In this whole franchise, only one set of characters have themselves 5 fingers. The Nightmare.
Yes.
Even Golden
Yeah.
Bonnie
He's yellow.
was a 5-fingered wearable suit at one point of the story. As
Gold!
we see in this shot from the graphic,
He's yellow in the book.
everyone else was turned into an animatronic. This seems to imply that all
It's
of the
gold,
main
Freddy.
characters wear wearable mascot outfits at least at one point in
Big
time,
lump
and that
enough.
whoever is having the FNaF 4 nightmares, if they even are nightmares, something that we'll touch
Oh,
on in part
no.
two, saw those mascot suits specifically. Lastly, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. The literal elephant, Orville Elephant, as well as the rest of the mediocre melodies. For a while now, I've suspected that the mediocre melodies played a much more important role in the story than just being a bunch more animatronics to fill out the roster. Especially Ned Bear, which is just so suspiciously close to Fred Bear. And yet, there are two key details that we're going to have to justify with any mediocre melodies mention. One, they're very rudimentary with external battery packs, implying that they come very
Yeah, I
early
noticed
in the
that.
timeline. And two, we know that at minimum, Mr. Hippo does eventually become an official member of the extended Freddyverse. But if these things are supposed to be cheap, generic rip-offs, why would you be trying to rip off yourself? You wouldn't. You would be stealing someone else's ideas. So if Afton created Fredbear, there would have to be some rival franchise. The only other person who would likely be ripping him off, Henry. We've talked extensively about how the mediocre melodies are clearly Henry's design aesthetic, so it just has to be him. I don't think Henry's doing this maliciously. He doesn't strike me as the type. He was likely building the robots at the orders of someone else that was running a rival restaurant franchise. But that's enough motivation to start Afton down a path of jealous
Yeah, like I said earlier, it was confirmed in the book.
As the Freddy Files
Not
Ultimate
that
Edition
book.
says, it's important to revisit the beginning of Henry and William's relationship, so here you go. I think this is where it begins. Also, this is future Matt Pat here coming back to add this one in. Seems like the recently released character encyclopedia has backed up all of this speculation. I've had this timeline written for about a month now, but I've also been holding off a bit to see what wrenches this character encyclopedia might throw into it. And on this particular point, I gotta say, it seems like we might actually have nailed it. They actively call out the suspicious similarities to the main Fredbear crew. Quote from
Been here for a
one
while.
of the pages. Ned Bear looks like an
Alright.
imitation, altered just enough to avoid copyright issues. I don't know about you, but that seems to imply
Copyright.
that we were right on money. Knowing all of this, at one
We
point,
love
the franchise
copyright.
had to emerge. That's really the only way that you get
Hate it.
Mr. Hippo from the rival franchise as part of the Fazbear crew. This also mirrors a lot of what happened in the real-life history of Chuck E. Cheese, with two rival restaurants, each with their own casts and characters merging to become one unified
Those are so
brand.
freaky.
Again, we've gone into that in detail with other videos, just wanted to remind you all of that here. But why would I call out the rival restaurant as being named Chica's Party World? Few things, actually. First, we know for a fact that a location named Chica's Party World exists. It is mentioned in the source code choosing sister location, so it is out there somewhere and doesn't fit cleanly anywhere. Second, in the story of the Puppet Carver, Chica is very explicitly looped in with the book versions of Pig Patch and Ned Bear, implying that she started as a mediocre melody. Thirdly, her design just fits better with a theme of down-home country animals with southern accents playing the banjo and eating with bibs. And with her being the headliner of the show with her name on the restaurant, it would make sense then that when the restaurants merged, she was the one that was added to the main cast of characters while all the other mediocres faded away. It's also why when Freddy's closes after William's killing spree, she's the one to branch back off into her old franchise and is therefore missing in sister location. A detail that's bothered me for years at this point. It might also explain
we
why
never
William
saw,
decided to stuff his
Funtime
first
Chica.
dead kid into Chica. That one was
Yeah, she
Henry's
was only in
creation,
Ultimate Custom
not
Night.
his. Is all of this a big leap? Yeah. Is it connecting a lot of dots that are very
Don't
spread
get
out across
distracted.
the franchise that I've been holding on in the back of my mind
I hate
for
her.
years? Absolutely. But I think it makes sense. It also serves as a clean answer to a lot of the random threads that Scott's been leaving dangling for years. So with all of that in mind, my friends, we can close the book on the foundation of Freddy's.
All right,
Don't worry,
all
next week I'll be back to give you arguably one of the most confusing parts of this entire timeline situation. Part 2,
I think the
Afton era.
The only thing I didn't like about this was the 1930 thing. Outside of that, everything's pretty solid.
Get this one out the door as you
Yeah,
are to
yeah,
watch
that was
it.
a bit-
I promise. You know what else I promise? I promise that we'll actually get to talking about the games. I would have liked to
The
have talked about
games?
it in this episode,
The
but there
games,
just
the
isn't
actual
that
games.
much in the games that helps us depict anything pre-Family Diner.
Yeah, the 30s
Although,
thing
let's
doesn't
be
make
honest,
sense.
this franchise has
Because
never
even
been
like
just about the games
singing
anyway.
bear shows were a
Back
thing
the
when I was a
early
kid,
FNaF, we were
and that was in
decoding
Yeah.
you know
code that Scott fed us
the
through the website. The modern day books
I
and the
I
clues
think
that
I
we
went
get from those
to
things, now they're just modern
one of
extensions
the
of
bear
that. All of
shows.
it
It was
is crucial to
around.
understanding this
It was like
franchise
mid
and its lore.
2000s.
Unless, of course, Steve Wolf finally
So,
gets around to making
mid
that
to late
Fredbear's Family
2000s, so.
Diner game they want to make so badly.
I've always would love to do is get kind of back to.
It's not
I don't
like
know if we'll ever be able to do this,
that
but
far
going
fetched
back
to be like,
kind of
oh, in the
like
50s.
origin
You know?
of
yeah.
entertainment or the origin of Freddy Fazbear.
But in the meantime, while we wait
Steel
for that
Wool making a
inevitably cryptic
Fredbear's
game, we'll
game?
get this start to the timeline
I would
to
love
fill in some
that.
of those gaps.
Yeah.
I'm excited to share part 2 with you next week. If you haven't subscribed,
Next
and rang
week.
the bell,
Got
make
it.
sure you do it now so you're notified
AKA
when
it's
that part
out as of
drops. I
recording
cannot
this
wait to see your
video.
thoughts down in the
Yeah.
comments below.
At least we'll be
And
close
as
to part
always,
3
I remind you,
as
it's
well.
all just a theory.
Game theory.
Go easy on me. Tried my best.
Alright, that was that. Alright, that was the first part of the FNaF Ultimate Timeline. Wow, that was pretty interesting. What do you say?
Yeah, overall, I liked it. I thought it was really cool to make the connection of Henry to the mediocre melodies and stuff like that. I still hang on that 1930s thing, but literally, if he bumped the year up to the 50s, then it would make it
Yeah, that would
seem...
be a bit more sense.
Because in the poster,
I mean, even if he was born in like the 40s, he would only be what, like 30 odd or something in the 70s.
Yeah.
So who knows? He might have been like a kid if he did say like it was his father's business or like a brought down business to his father, and yeah.
Well, even if it was like, let's say 1938 when he saw the show,
yeah,
he would still have to have been young and like old enough to remember things, right? So he would have had to have been, let's say 5 or 6, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you could go as low as 4. That still puts him at, really old. At I don't know. I think if, like I said, if he bumped it to 50, because even the poster itself doesn't show a year, so it's not like he's just. I know he's making speculation and trying to make that leap. If he would have made it to 50s, I'd have been like, all right, solid. This is a great theory. But yeah, that's my only complaint. Outside of that, I thought this was really good.
But it's just a theory.
A game theory.
Theory.
Thanks for watching.